Hello again, traders, and welcome back to the Hot Stocks Outlook for November 3rd, 2023. Hope you all are having a great week out there in the financial markets. As always, we've got plenty to cover as we look and update these VantagePoint predictive forecasts. And so if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and click on that link in the description below, and you can get a live demonstration, learn more about the specifics about how this technology can really help you make better trading decisions day in and day out in the market. So as we typically do, we can take a look at this SPY ETF that really models the S&P 500. And so as we look back 12 months, we're up about 16%, year to date up about 13%, and we're starting to see a lot of action, actually some bullish opportunities open up within the equity space. And so what we want to do is highlight and actually update some of these VantagePoint forecasts. And we can do that by starting out here with shares of Chewy. And this is a really great example of how all of these predictive indicators work together. So what you're seeing on really the price action here is daily price action. So each one of those candles represents a complete trading day. And you'll see right up against those daily bars and candles, there's a black line value and also a blue line there. Now, the black line value that you see on the chart, that is a simple moving average. This is a very common technical indicator. And for our purposes here, what this does is really smooths out the existing price action and let us know where market prices have been. But really the problem with tools like this is that they all look back at the past and are essentially lagging. And so what we're able to do is actually compare that black lagging moving average to this proprietary predicted moving average. And so whenever we see that value, in this case, cross above that simple moving average, it's suggesting average prices are going to start moving higher. But how is that really, come to that conclusion here? Well, what's going on is VantagePoint's technology of artificial neural networks, they perform what's called intermarket analysis. And what they're doing is specifically for Chewy, it's known that there's really dozens of markets that will drive and influence the future price of Chewy shares. Now, this can be individual stocks, this can be individual ETFs, but overwhelmingly we see that very important influence with things like the value of the US dollar index and its effect on the global stock market. So it's able to look at all of these intermarket relationships as well as things like global commodities like gold, silver prices, maybe oil prices, whatever is specifically applicable to that target market. And it's utilizing that intermarket data and that technology, essentially looking at all these data sets to really understand what are those leading, lagging, sort of inverse correlations, and then generate future price predictions with that data. So it's essentially those future price predictions that are used to construct all of these indicators. So you really have this technologically driven outlook that has a very high level of accuracy attached to it. So whenever we see that blue line cross above the black line, well, we'd expect average prices to start moving higher, but we've got a couple of other predictive tools here as well that can really assist us with the overall forecast here. Now, we see since that blue line crossed above the black line, Chewy stock here up 16% in the past 8 trading days. So really fantastic trading opportunity there. But let's take a look at some of these other predictive indicators. Now, if you look at the very bottom of the chart, you'll see this bar, and typically this goes from green to red. In this case, it's all green as it's forecasted the prices to continue moving higher. But what's important to understand is that this is really fine-tuned to be a 48-hour indicator. So it's really just looking for short-term strength or weakness over the next couple of trading days. And we can see here that really every day for the past 8 trading days, it said, look, expect prices to go higher. And you've actually gotten some pretty aggressive price action, even some gaps on the chart as we see this 18% advance in shares of Chewy. Now, lastly, you're even provided intraday highs and lows. So you see how this is a shadow candle here. And what it's really doing is forecasting the next trading day. You get all this information, at 6 p.m. Eastern the night before the markets open the next morning at 9:30 a.m. And so what we get is essentially a range, a prediction for the range, and we can use that again to fine tune our entries. And so we see here as we get this advance in the market, we move up to these predicted highs, start to gap up recently, moving down to this predicted low and moving higher still up towards the next day's predicted high. So shorter term traders may want to use these tools to accumulate a position, potentially take some short-term profits, and also add to their position as the market continues higher. So you see about a 5% rally here. Shares looking very good as we've seen, again, the dollar start to weaken, and that's been very good for stocks. Here's shares of McDonald, so a little bit more established company here, but here we see this crossover, this blue line crossing above the black line, and a better example of how these really suite of predictive indicators can help traders make these decisions. Now, here you see the neural index goes down to a red position, and you see we get this sideways price action. We go to green, we're still running sideways, red, and this is actually earnings here on this trading day here. And what's so interesting about this is as we really look at the forecast, we can see that, well, very straightforward. All through earnings here, you've got a upward forecast. You've got about a 5-6% rally over the past 12 trading days. But then we can look at how accurate all of these predicted highs and lows are. So we see as the market starts to run sideways, it's letting you know, hey, look for this market to start running sideways. We move up toward these predicted highs, down to predicted lows. And even on earnings here, you see how you perfectly move to that predicted low. And what is the overall trend? Well, expected to go higher, and the trend resumes. So we've seen, again, a lot of strength come into shares, but of course it's easier to be positioned in those things that are the strongest, and this is why over the past couple of weeks, we looked at Quest Diagnostics. We'll revisit that, but trying to identify these areas where that blue line is actually above the black line, and we're in uptrends, and that's where you'll likely see some strength as we see some relief come into the equity markets. About a 6% advance there in shares of McDonald's. Here's Monster Beverage, so another good example, very similar to something like Campbell Soup we looked at last week, where you get these crossover a couple of weeks ago, and sometimes the market isn't going to go straight up, right? Sometimes we're going to run sideways, but as long as that blue line remains above the black line, the overall trend or average price are still expected to remain higher, and this is where the neural index can be very helpful. Where you see it gets bearish here, it's letting you know you're getting this sideways price action, but the overall trend very bullish. And we actually see that expansion as the blue line separates from the black line, and that overall trend resumes here in Monster Beverage. So again, we can take a look at this position here. We've got a lot of really bullish opportunities here that have really come through. We had after the Fed statement, we saw a lot of relief and markets do well, but a lot of these things have been setting up for a couple weeks, and obviously stronger if those predicted moving averages are already above the actual moving average. It's about a 5% advance there in shares of Monster. So here's Quest. So this is what we looked at last week, and very similar to some of these other opportunities. You may want to get involved in something a little bit early here as we see these markets start to reverse. That blue line moves above the black line. We of course have this next day's predicted highs and lows, where we came into this predicted low, and it's pretty much been straight up. Hit this predicted low, start moving higher. And what I wanted to highlight here is just this past week. So, we came in after this rally highlighting the forecast, but what's happened so far? Well, you see we moved down to this predicted low on Monday, and the VantagePoint predictive forecast doing their job. Hitting those predicted highs pretty perfectly, coming off, and then again, getting an additional entry here as it looks like things are pretty bullish going in towards the end of the week here. Lastly, here's shares of Pulte Homes. Again, very similar situation. We see this across the home builder space. So what we can do is actually utilize a lot of these predictive forecasts, but actually see as these predictive crossovers occur with the help of VantagePoint's IntelliScan feature. So what this allows us to do is really look at all the markets and really be presented with these fresh crossovers right as they occur, ensure that you're not missing trading opportunities. So here we see this blue line again, more recently crossing above the black line, and we've seen a lot of strength in the equity market this week. And this is where VantagePoint's predictive forecasts have been very bullish here. Neural index is getting very bullish, blue lines crossing above black lines, and really highlighting where these areas are of focus and attention, where we're seeing some really nice opportunities open up. So there we see Pulte up about 11% just in the past 5 trading days. And again, we're seeing a lot of stocks in the Russell, some smaller stocks that hadn't been doing well, right? So we saw, really the big stocks like Amazon, Nvidia, Adobe, some of these things lead the way. Well, now we're seeing some of the smaller stocks come along, and that's very good for the indices and sort of the overall risk on environment here. So once again, this has been our Hot Stocks Outlook for November 3rd, 2023. Thank you all for watching. Best of luck, and bye for now.